And I'm back, and what we're going to do here today is we're going to change the caliper and the rotor on this side of a 2006 PT Cruiser. Okay, so we've got it jacked up, wheel off here, and the symptoms on this, what we've been noticing is these brakes are getting hot, and it's like the caliper sticking. We're going to just change it out with a new one. And the temperature of the rotor has been quite hot. You can see how it's sort of blued it. So we got a new rotor, a new caliper, and some new pads. Okay, so my jack stands are a little high for this vehicle. So what I've done is I've just put a block of wood under here, and we're gonna let the car down on that block of wood. There, make sure it's nice and safe to work on. Okay, and since we're gonna change the caliper out, we're just gonna drain the fluid out of it. It's a 15mm bolt on the back of the caliper that holds the line on there. Okay, there we go. Okay, and we're just gonna loosen these bolts on the caliper. These are 14mm. There's the other one. Just gonna pry that caliper out of there. Alright. I'm just gonna sit it in there, let it drain out. There was lots of material on them, but this car's only got 50,000 miles on it for a 2006. It's amazing. So didn't get much use, but it sat around a lot, and sometimes that'll, you know, make things seize up. The brakes go off, and if you don't drive a car a lot, the brakes will seize up. And you know, sometimes you can remedy that by just lubricating everything, especially these pins. But you know, in this case, we're just going to change it. There's the sliders. We've got new ones of these that come with the kit, so set those aside. Now all we got to do now is take this bracket off of here. The bolts that hold the caliper onto the car are 18mm. Put one in here like that. Okay. Not recommended by any shop teachers anywhere, because you can hurt yourself, but get a little leverage on that. Yeah. Okay. One on the top, one on the bottom. Okay, there's the other one. That'll just come off there like that. Okay. And that's the condition of the rotor. We'll check the condition of the hub. It doesn't seem like there's no lateral movement in that. That seems okay. Just clean in here a little bit. Got a new rotor. Bought it on Rock Auto. We can compare it to the old one. All right, same size in diameter. Yeah, same bolt pattern. Yeah, looks good. Okay, now these come with a bit of a coating on them, rust preventative coating on them, so we'll just do a little brake cleaner on these before we put them in. Wipe that off. Put that on here. And wipe it off. Okay, so here's the old caliper and the old bracket. And here's the rebuilt one. So this is the replacement one. Now the only thing I noticed different about this one is if you look on this bracket here, all right, this bracket here has this part that hangs down here. It's sort of like a reinforcement on the bracket, and this one doesn't have it. See that? See that? But I double checked the part number, and it's supposed to fit, so it should be fine. If not, we can reuse the old bracket. Sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes the brackets aren't compatible, but this, I mean on any vehicle, but in this particular instance, I ordered one specifically that had this in the picture, but this is what they sent. And I double checked the part number. This is the part number that showed up. and it cross-references as the right match for that left front on the 2006 PT Cruiser. Now, I got a new set of pads as well, okay? And you can look at the old ones. The old ones didn't have a lot of wear on them. You know, not too much at all, but just because that caliper wasn't functioning the way it should have, you know, it just sort of seized the caliper. And so those pads are actually good for a spare. We'll keep them as a spare. We could clean them up and use them again someday. We also have sliders for the pads to go on, and I got some brake lubricant here. This goes on these sliders and it goes on these pins. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, the caliper slides on these pins, and you can see it here. See that movement? See that relative to the bracket? Okay, so what happens is as your pads wear, this self-adjusts to take up the slack. Also, what happens is when you apply your brakes, brake fluid comes down behind here, behind the little piston in here, and pushes out this piston and closes the brake pads, squeezes against the rotor, and stops the car. And what it's supposed to do is when you take your foot off the brake is release a little bit. And what happens in calipers where these pins are seized, or if the piston's starting to get seized, you could apply the brakes, but it doesn't release the brakes, and then that's where you get these overheating conditions. You get the brake sticking. A couple of things with that: you're not getting efficient braking, and you're also going to burn more fuel because you're dragging the brakes in essence all day long. So good to get in there, you know, do maintenance on these, you know, once a year at least, and you know, clean these pins up and lubricate them with the appropriate lubricant. There's a couple different kinds, but this is a silicone dielectric grease. It basically doesn't absorb water, and it'll withstand high temperatures. All right, so separate the caliper from the bracket. Now let's go down and put that bracket on. Some Loctite on these threads. Okay. And these in here. Okay. All right, there's our new pads. All right, and we've got these sliders. All right, let's put those sliders in. Either side, top and bottom. One goes there, and the other one goes up here. All right, and then we got this brake lubricant. Some of that brake lubricant, we put it on here. And on the other side, and here, and on there. Okay, and on the two pads, see there's one here that has the little squeaker for whenever the pad gets low. That should go on the back side, and this one goes on the front. See, this one doesn't have that little tab on it there. What happens is when the pad wears down to there, that starts to squeak because it runs against the rotor, and it warns you that it's time to change the pads. So, in like that. Okay. And same on the front. This one just sits in there like that. The other thing I like to do is, even though these come factory greased, I like to put a little more on them. These slider pins, I always put a little extra on them. Okay. Just put it in there like that. Okay, same on the bottom. Just pulls out. A bit more on there. It's critical that those work the way they should. There, like that, that's fine. Okay, so I've just put a little blue Loctite on these bolts here that hold the caliper on. And the other thing you want to do is you just want to put a little bit of that grease on the end of the piston like that, and on these back contact points here like that, just to keep it from chattering. These little springs, they'll come in contact with the top of there, so there will be a little tension as you push it down. Okay, so the pads just go in on either side like that. All right, and we can pivot this down and then get that, line that up for the bolt on this side. And there's some spring tension here. We see that. These little springs, they'll come in contact with the top of there, so there will be a little tension as you push it down. Okay, and this is the new bolt that goes on the back of the caliper for the hose. All right, let's put that together. Okay, so get the hose. And we got a copper washer there. And we'll put the other one on this side. Okay, so copper washer either side of the block. Okay, that's good. Not too tight on that. Now with everything assembled, I'm going to clean everything off with the brake cleaner. I like to just put a couple of nuts on here just to center it. That'll just put the rotor nice and square with the caliper there. Now it's not going to roll the whole way around because it's on a drive shaft here. This is a front wheel drive car and that's the drive shaft for it there. So yeah, but it's moving back and forth fine. All right, so now we're ready to bleed that. All right, we'll just take that little cover off the bleeder screw. It's 10 millimeter, so we'll just loosen that. And I usually like to put some anti-seize on the bleeder screw for later, you know, next time you go to bleed it. These things often get over tightened and they're dry and they break, you know, and they ruin the caliper. You can't, unless you can get it out, you've ruined the caliper next time. So always put a little anti-seize on those threads. Just a little dab, like so. Put that in there. Okay, I'll just cycle that in there a few times. All right, we'll just leave it cracked a bit. All right. Okay, we're going to top up the brake reservoir. Just gravity bleeding. See that? It's coming out through there. So it's coming down the line from the reservoir and it's just filling up behind the piston. All right. Now we can bleed it a little bit with by stepping on the pedal, but that's a good first step. Okay, I've got an assistant in the car that's going to push on the pedal. Okay, push on the pedal several times, please. And then hold. So pumping. Let it come all the way to the top, all the way to the bottom, and then hold it down. Hold it. Okay, pump again, please. Hold it down. Okay, pump it. Okay, that should be good. Okay, everything looks good in there. I'll put that little rubber boot back on the bleeder screw. Everything's nice and tight, cleaned off. Wheel on. Okay. A funny hubcap on this thing. It's a plastic hubcap, but it has to go on before the bolts because the bolts don't fit through the hole. It's kind of funny. I thought that was kind of strange. It's the first time I've seen that. All right, so valve stem here. Yeah, it's really kind of strange that it's a plastic hubcap, but it has to go on first. I tried it first, no, it wouldn't go on. There's a flange on the bolt. I don't know. You want to make sure your level in the reservoir is full when you've finished everything, all the bleeding. cover back on. Okay, I just got to torque these nuts, and that's it for this job. Identical process on the other side. Thanks for watching. Comment, like, and subscribe, and we'll see you again here very soon on Everyday Projects. Bye for now.